Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Southern Guns. Really appreciate everyone tuning back into the channel. Today's episode was one that I've messed around with for a while, kind of played around with this one, and I went back and forth. It was kind of first done as a joke, and now after doing a little bit of research and current events, I decided I might actually take this one a little bit more seriously. So today we're going to be talking about famous, the classic Mosin Nagant. I know I said I'll never ever do this on this channel, but someone was thinking I had already done it because they don't know their guns as well as they think they do, and so I finally decided I was going to do a video on this gun. And then things changed around the world, and I kind of was doing a little bit more research, and that really kind of drew me into this. So, let's get started. The Mosin Nagant. Everybody has talked about this rifle. There's some great channels that has talked about it. There's some other YouTube channels, and the guys are like masters on this thing. I, however, am not. What I'm going to do is discuss this rifle. This is a rifle, I believe, from the Tula Arsenal. And I'm going to discuss just a generic rifle that is off the line. There's nothing special about it. And the generic ammo that was shot through this ammo, or through this rifle. There's a lot of talk about the Mosin Nagant being one of the worst rifles ever in the history of ever. I'm not going to dispute that at all. I'm not even going to argue that logic. But I want to look at this in the context of when this rifle was designed. I mean, by today's standards, it is an awful rifle, at least to me. But let's look at this again, though, in the context of when was this rifle built. That might be able to put into, again, context as to the significance of this rifle and whether this was a good design or whether it was a bad design. In 1890, you had two guys come together in Russia, Mosin and Nagant. One developed the bullet, one developed the gun. They came together, drank some vodka, and this is the monstrosity that came about. The Mosin Nagant. It has I forgot how long the barrel is, I think almost a 30-inch barrel. The receiver has a split on top. For whatever reason, has a camming device in the middle, and if you notice, the stock is extremely short. The reason that is extremely short is a lot of people in Russia wear heavy, thick clothing, and so this helps with the padding so the gun's not so far away. And of course, you do have smaller people like the Mongolians, you know, rather just not just from Moscow, but all the way over towards the former Mongolian Empire. It was part of now the Russian Empire. What happened in 1890? Let's start there. Let's start at the very beginning of the history so we can really get a context of this gun's development. So in 1890, you had the Wounded Knee Massacre in South Dakota. On December 29th, 1890, 365 troops of the U.S. 7th Cavalry, supported by 4 Hitchcock KISS guns, surrounded the Lakota and Sioux Indians near the Wounded Knee. This was a major battle. This was probably one of the last major battles of the Indian Wars, I guess you could say. They were using old Gatling guns. They were using trapdoor Springfields. They were using black powder guns, essentially, is what I'm getting at here. You know, and if you think they're using 45-70s, 45-90, 120s, you know, and they also were rimmed cartridges. In 1898, Britain came out with the 303 British. 303 British was also using black powder. It had long sticks of cordite, I believe it was. Now, originally it was not designed to be a black powder. They were actually going to make it into a smokeless powder, but at the time it was a stopgap. They were using black powder. So the 303 British was also a rimmed cartridge. Now, in 1890, 1891, The Russian Empire, when Mosin and Nagant came together, they also created the 7.62 by 54R. R does not stand for R does not stand for rifle. It does not stand for Russian. It stands for rimmed. 7.62 rimmed. The Mosin Nagant served the Russian Empire, later the Soviet Federation, I think it was called, all the way up till 1973. Over 37 million of these rifles were produced in that time frame. Significant number. There's not many rifles of that number has ever been produced. That's enough to pretty much supply everybody. Now, this rifle, talking about the characteristics of this rifle, if a person from 1891 was to be able to pick this rifle up in 1973, he would still understand the manual of arms. The receiver had pretty much gone unchanged the entire time of since its inception. The only thing that had changed throughout its history was the barrel length, the location of the bayonet, whether it was on or off, and also the sighting system. Now, the sighting system pretty much was the same. It was just the way the measurements were changed on the rear leaf aperture. Now, by 1973, the rifle is beyond obsolete. You know, in 1973, we've already passed the M1 Garand, and now we're into the, we've passed the M14, and now we're on to the M16, and most Eastern Bloc countries are using AK-47s, and I believe around this time frame we're getting ready to adopt the AK-74. Clearly, this rifle was outdated by this time period. And even as a civilian hunting rifle, this rifle was outdated, as you had rifles such as the Remington 700, the Winchester Model 70, as well as various other rifles such as Weatherby rifle. Now, that goes to where this rifle is pretty much, you're looking at, it's getting outdated. You know, by this point, we're looking at a 100-year-old rifle. We're coming up on that 100-year mark. Nothing has changed on the design in almost 100 years other than barrel length and the sighting system. So now it's 2022. This rifle has been used in every major conflict and has been in continuous service for 131 years. That in itself is an accomplishment and a testament to the quality of the rifle. That being said, it doesn't mean that the rifle isn't outdated and is not the greatest rifle. It just means there's a lot of them and we have a lot of ammo, and that's why we continue to use it. We being the end user. How does it shoot though? Well, that's the million-dollar question. I've heard a lot of people say that these are the worst shooting rifles, and then you hear some people who swear by them and say that, like, man, they're like the next Vasily Zaitsev, or Vasily, whatever his last name was. Anyways, you ever seen Enemy of the Gates? That's what I'm talking about. Great movie, you should watch it. So let's go to the CMP and we'll get a true, accurate representation of how this thing shoots, and we'll see what's up. I'm gonna be shooting this Red Army 7.62 by 54, 148 grain, 100 yards. Let's see how well this does.
That's a more unstable platform.
God, I forgot how much this thing has a recoil.
But still. Bad thing is, this is one box of sales. not bad. 3 shots.
This gun is definitely living up to its name as a garbage rod.
I hope so.
Let's try one more group, then we'll be done with that load. Oh, I meant to shoot a new series. Let's try that again. We're going to try one more group out of this, see how well it shoots. Clearly those rounds are all over the place. Is it the ammo? Or is it the gun? We'll try this and see what happens. So the groups tightened up quite a bit. I mean, not a great, but they tightened up a lot. Funny that Tula ammo actually shot better. Tula ammo's all cheapest ammo. Let's try one more group.
I was looking for it. And then phase. I like it.
And looks like I spoke too soon. That's odd. Really makes me want to try this again. That was kind of interesting. Let's do this one more time.
There you go. What you got? So do I need to get mine now? Yes. Clear me. Yeah.
think that's enough. They all tend to favor to the
So to wrap this up, do a little after action review. What do I think of the shooting? Well, it was horrible. Just keeping it short and simple. I see why they call this thing garbage rod. Okay, it's the shooting on this thing was absolutely horrific. There's much better rifles out there. If you are a collector or of a person who is interested in military history and firearms history, guaranteed 100% snatch one of these things up. They're not, well, they used to be not that expensive. Now they're outrageously expensive. But if you are a history buff and you like history and you like, you know, being able to touch it, and I said touch it. If you want to be able to be hands-on with historical items and how it affected key events, yes, most definitely. If you're buying this as what you believe to be a shooter, just stop right now. Just walk away. I really enjoyed making this video. I'm really let down in the accuracy thing, but you know what? I mean, I guess it'd be like that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, if you like what you've seen, you know how this goes. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right here. And who knows, maybe we'll give this thing another try, you know, and see what's up. All right, I'll see y'all later.